Right. はい。
お願いします。
お願いします。はい。飲んだ。はい。サイドサイド。はい。Eat shoulders. Circles. Wait. Circles the other way. Right. Arms. And back. Good from one side. And the other side. Cross. Turn. Open close. Hey. Nice alright. And by. Right. Your hook. Then G. Yoko. Hey. Ki. Ko. Ki. Ko. San. Ki. Ko. Wait. It's forward. And down. Hey. Your knees. Circle. And the other circle. Oh, doubles. Hey. Sideways. Front, back, back, front, and toes. So, cool. Hey, hips. Oh, lowering and moving forward, back, forward, back, forward, back. Hey, to one side. The other side. Hands inside. Hips up. And spine up. Shoulders, head. Up. Hey, tight. Hey, side. So. There is an exercise in our strength and mobility program, which is a combination of arabesque followed by Cossack, which is it's a good exercise to have because both of those movements are very important movements in our overall practice. The arabesque, which is a hip hinge, which is just common, and the Cossack, which although the Cossack as position does not exist we don't have it. Sometimes when you practice with some walking patterns, something like a Cossack is required in order to absorb the pattern. But for us, the more common position is not necessarily a Cossack, but this strong base that finishes with Shihonage and Yujigarami and Nikki and things like that, where the back leg is strongly extended, and it's open to one side. So anyway, so those positions are the exercise that is in the strength and conditioning program. It's just a mobility exercise that combines, arabesque with turning and Cossack. One more time, the width of the movement, but the depth of the movement is not that important. If you cannot fully go almost 90 degrees with your arabesque, and you cannot do a very big, deep Cossack, it's less important than to understand your own range of motion and that you are more or less harmonious with it. So in your arabesque, if you can only do, a shot, not a very deep arabesque, when you're moving from your hip, even if it's a little bit, not very much, and then if you open into Cossack, and again, your Cossack is small and open in the hip, that is perfectly fine. So you can just explore the range of motion that you have, especially with the arabesque. It's not about putting your head down, it's about hinging from the hips and trying to do as much head as raising of the leg. Okay, so arabesque followed by Cossack. Okay, so one, so open, two, so open, three, open, so four, open, five, Change to the other side. One. Open. Two. Open. Three. Open. Four. Open. Five. Open. Oh. Right. Side, side. The legs, elbows down, going forward. Back stretch. Forward again. Hips up. Head down, tucking between your shoulders. Heels down. And then another exercise from our mobility routine program. So in that a downward dog position, raising one leg, putting it down. Keep your head in between or lower than your shoulders. Raise the other leg, bring it down. Raise the other leg, down. Raise, down. Raise, down. Raise, down. Oh, down. Toes pointing outside, hips back. Forward again. Toes pointing in and pushing back. Stop. One side and the other side. One side, the other side, one side, the other side. So, side. Hey, carajo. So, change to the side. Oh, sides. Hey. Oh. Oh. Y, go. Ni, ki, go. San, ki, marui, go. Hey, standing up. Una kogi. Left foot in front. Remember, hand in position. Square your hips. Okay. We're going to talk about that in a minute. Okay. Hands in front. So. Ho, 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 Oh. Hey, ni hami no kamae. Square your hips. Hands in front. Hey. Isa, 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 Isa. Hey, go. Shake, shake. Sometimes one of them say raises one leg, and finds his center, raises the other leg, finds the center, and does it several times. Oh. Oh. Hey, okay. So continue with the study and the reflections that we have after Sensei's seminar. I think I spoke last week about how his hanmi position, in a sense, is similar to the standard Aikikai is a hanmi, and possibly what you see in Doyo Cho's seminars as well, where the hands, in particular, they don't have a particular kamae. They are not raised at any particular level. The hands basically are on the sides, they are active, but they don't have a particular position, right? The feet, and this is something I think that Doyo Cho mentioned during his seminar. Sometimes many of us learn the Aikido hanmi by different people in different ways. And sometimes we tend to over narrow the hanmi in the sense that sometimes people learn that it's like a heel to heel kind of level. So people learn even more narrow, kind of middle of the foot to heel kind of level. So a very, very narrow hanmi, okay? Remember, for example, the striking arts, like our friends from karate, they have a hanmi, but it's a much wider hanmi. So they are like one foot in front, one back, but really, really wide. I would say that our hanmi from a natural perspective, and I think I mentioned this last week, but sorry if I'm repeating myself, but you know, when you walk, you don't really walk on a single line unless you're playing. Can't remember the name of that game, but you know, you kind of walk with the width of your hips, you know, and you just walk naturally forward and backwards, and your feet are never really on the same line. They are kind of in a parallel line. How big is that parallel line? Well, depends on your structure, your anatomy, and the width of your hips. If at any point within that walking you stop, that is basically your natural hanmi. Okay, so in terms of the position of your feet, so you walk forward and you stop. You know, that is basically your natural hanmi. Anything bigger is something that you create artificially. Anything narrower is something that you create artificially. So your hanmi should be as natural as walking and having that position. How wide are the feet? Well, depending how wide your natural walking. Okay, so that's the hands. You know, in Aikikai, practice. Hands are down. They are not up in kamae. The width of the legs, ideally, they are the width of your natural walking motion. And then lastly is the hips. And this is where in Mono-sensei's hip position is quite square, okay? Because you square the hips, the front foot maybe opens up a little bit, okay? So sometimes within Aikikai, the hips are a little bit diagonal, okay, or sideways. Even if you walk, sometimes the hip adopt a little bit of a sideways diagonal kind of position. Sensei corrects that often in terms of putting his hips fully square. Now, the difficult thing is to keep the hips square. Okay, so we did an exercise with him during the seminar where you start in kami, you make sure that your hips are square, and then you basically just take a yumiashi, keep them square, a yumiashi, keep them square, and then ushiro yumiashi and ushiro yumiashi. Now we did that with different footworks, with different yumiashi or kuriashi, suriashi, etc. But the point was the same. And he was behind some of us, he was going around behind people, making sure that the hips stay square as opposed to the hips opening and then having to fix them or something like that. So he went around behind. Now, in order to keep the hips square, you can do that by thinking, as in, I have to keep my hips square, I have to keep my hips square, or by somatically engaging your core muscles, boom, in a position, and then keeping the core muscles engaged, in that position. Okay, so let's try to do that. Okay, now in the beginning, let's harmonize, movement, core engagement, and breathing. Eventually, those three things are not necessarily together, but in the beginning, let's keep them together. So you breathe in, your core muscle area engages. If you have a belt, it's useful because you can feel, as you should feel the pressure all around your belt, and you take a step forward and you miash. You can relax there. So breathe in. Keep core muscle engagement around your belt, take a step forward, and then you can relax in there. Okay, now going backwards, breathe in, engage core muscles, step back, and you can relax. One more time, breathe in, engage core muscles, step back, and relax. Okay, because you have a belt, you should feel the pressure not only on the front of the belt, but also on the sides of the belt, and including all the way to behind on the back of the belt, which is all your 360 core muscle group. Okay. Alternatively, you can put your two fingers in the size of your abdomen, and when you breathe in, you feel that pressure growing, you feel that pressure keeping while you do your step, and then you can breathe out and relax. So whatever two methods that makes you feel the engagement of your core muscles, either through the belt only or with the fingers included, okay? So breathe in, keep your engagement, step forward, breathe out, relax. Breathe in, keep engagement, step forward, breathe out, relax. Breathe in, fingers, step back, relaxed. One more time, breathe in, engage, breathe out, relax. Okay, now that's with Ayumiashi, forward and backwards. Now Okuriashi going forward, Shiro Okuriashi. So breathe in, forward, relax. Breathe in, forward, relax. Breathe in, forward, relax. Ushiro, breathe in, out, breathe in, out, breathe in, out. Change foot. Breathe in, forward, out. Breathe in, forward, out. Breathe in, forward, out. Backwards, breathe in, out. Breathe in, out. Breathe in, out. All right, Yoko Shirogemi. So on one side, okay, you're going to breathe in and then move in Yoko Shirogemi. Remember to lower your hips, okay? So breathe in, up, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, engage. Breathe out. The other side, breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. All right, so a couple of notices with that. Yeah, so at the moment we're doing kind of the most basic somatic experience of it. Remember, the inhalation and the use of your breathing and the use of your core muscles can be harmonized in terms of its action. You can breathe in, engage core muscles, breathe out, relax core muscles. But ultimately, that togetherness can separate. You can breathe in, engage core muscles, breathe out, and still have some level of core muscle engagement. So it is not essential that you always, whenever you breathe in, core muscles engage. Whenever you breathe out, core muscles disengage. That is good in the beginning to have the first experience of it, but eventually that actually separates in a way because the core muscle engagement remains as much or should remain as much as possible. So let's just practice that for a moment. Okay, so you're going to breathe in, engage core muscles. You're going to breathe out, but you keep the core muscles engaged. And then you can relax. So now there is no relationship between you breathing in and breathing out with the core muscle and relaxation of the core muscles, okay? So at some point you relax them, but not necessarily with the exhalation part. So you breathe in and you breathe out and then you relax. You breathe in and you breathe out and then you relax. You breathe in, you breathe out, and then you relax, and so on. So that is when your core muscles are not necessarily relaxing when you breathe out. They can still remain engaged when you breathe out. Remember, that's why it's important to do our exercises outside of the training, because an overall good health of your core muscles and lower back muscles means that they are more active and awake regardless of your breathing mechanisms. So it's always really important. So the other thing is that we were talking yesterday that in our movement, there is a priority, there is a hierarchy of motions, right? It's a little bit like we put the example of, a horse and a cart, when the horse, when the horse and the cart, the horse that is pulling a cart, they kind of seem to move together, the horse are moving and the cart is moving and horse and cart seem to be happening together. But we know that what is pulling the cart are the horses. We know that it's not the other way around. Okay, although they are moving at the same time, we know that something is pulling something, and that's the same thing with our movement. So you could say that in our movement, the hierarchy goes something like this, at a purely physical level. Okay, breathing and core muscle engagement, hips and spine, and legs and arms, something like that. Okay, so the first is the breathing, the koku that animates things and engages the core muscles. Okay, then you have your hips and you have your spine in whatever action, and then you have usually the legs doing their thing. Okay, so we were talking yesterday, for example, again, Ikkyo Ura, where you lower your hips first and then you move your legs second. Okay, as opposed to, moving in the hips and then the legs and then remember to move. So that hierarchy has to exist. The fact that eventually when we see a person that has trained for a while, this movement looks like one movement, is the case of Moreno Shikan, for example. He enters and then he moves. And he's like, oh, he moved together. He's like, yeah, he moved together. That's true. It looked together, like a cart and like horses and carts looking that they're going together. Yes, correct. But something is pulling something. And that order matters. That order is not, whatever pull, whatever, it's fine. No. So the cart is not pushing the horses. The horses are pulling the cart. So the same thing here. Core muscle engagement, hip engagement, leg motion. Okay, now those three things may happen at the same time. Now, good, because we have learned to, unify those things. But the hierarchy still matters. Okay, and at the very beginning, our legs and our arms are very rebellious. They want to do things by themselves because they are the primary source of motion that we have in the world. So they are used to doing things. So we have to discipline them, bring them into the discipline of the hip and the spine, and all of that together with your core, and all of that together with your kokyu, and so on. So that's why it's important to do that. So let's practice just that action, for example. So let's imagine Shomenuchi. Let's imagine that you are going behind for Ura, and then it's Ikkyo Ura. So you have natural hand. So the Shomen comes, breathes in, connects, lowers the hips, and moves the legs. Okay, left side, here. The Shomen comes, breathes in, engage core muscles, lowers the hip, moves the legs. Here, the Shomen comes, engage core muscles, lower the hips, and move the legs. And here, engage core muscles, lower the hips, move the legs. Engaging core muscles, lower the hips, moving the legs. Core muscles, hips, legs. Core muscles, hips, legs. Now see if you can progressively continue practicing and see if you can progressively bring those three things in almost alignment, although one thing moves a little bit ahead, and they will almost to the outlook, like someone who's looking from the outside, it looks like those three things moving at the same time, but you know that something is pulling something. Okay, so please continue by yourself. So all right. So the next one, for example, will be same thing, but with Shonuchi Iriminage. So let's say you enter behind Shonuchi, you control the spine and basically project. Okay. So that one we have almost no option because it's a little bit longer in that sense. But we are going to enter, control the spine, and then project. So in between, we enter. We have to enter with some integrity, physical integrity. So engage core muscles in the moment of contact, lower your hips, and then produce the step after that lowering of the hip. Over and over and over again. This is always most common problem when people enters. They enter behind the given. They want to do the throw, but their hips are too high. And if the other person is too heavy, or too big, then obviously the struggle commences. And then, the struggle kind of just devolves from there. Usually the issue is, I am not lowering my hips first, if it produce then the projection. So, same thing, core muscles, hips, and project, please. Okay, so enter, lower hips a little bit, and enter, lower hips, and enter, lower hips, okay, core muscles, hips, and feet. Muscles, hips, feet, and muscles, hips, feet. Oh. And then bring them together. Okay. Push. All right. So, okay. So that's another one, you know. So and again, this hierarchy continues. Nikkyo, okay. Nikkyo. In Nikkyo, the primacy is going to be with the hips and the spine. Okay. Let's imagine Katadori Nikkyo. And let's imagine that you move into Ura position. Okay. So it's Katadori here. The entire spine comes. You move into Ura position. Then you control with the spine. Once your spine is moved and your partner's spine is moved, then you move the arms. Okay? So that more or less looks, look. I think we know what we're doing here. Ura, out, here. Here, I haven't moved my spine yet. I may be tempted to start using my arms, even if it's my hips. So the primacy is the movement of the spine. And once the spine has moved, then the arms start moving. Really, the arms never really move by themselves. They then after the spine, the hips start moving, and the arms remain following the direction of the hip. Okay, so in this case, it's going to be Nikkyo Ura. So step back, absorb, position, spine, spine, spine. The more you move your spine, the more the other person should be moving the spine, especially if you are controlling the elbow. Remember, the elbow should be up. Bam, bam, bam. Once you get into that position, then you start moving the hips back to the other foot, and the hands remain just aligned to that position. Okay, so the core muscles, especially at the moment of contact, comes down, receives, moves the spine, here, moves the hips, and the arms stay. Okay. Core muscles, the moment of contact. Yeah. Moves the spine, moves the hips, the arms remain. Okay. Core muscles, down, moves the spine, moves the hips, arms remain. So, okay, that's one. Okay, Shihonage. Okay, Shihonage is difficult because there's so much foot movement that it's kind of hard to see it. For Shihonage, let's say Ura. Okay, let's say Ura is the first one. Right? So when it does, lower hips, moves the leg. Okay, remember the first action on Shihonage, the one we're going to say this, he enters, lowers. He enters, lowers. Enters, lowers. Then he proceeds to do his turn. Okay, so let's just do up to that part. Okay, then the second part, very long, but let's just focus on that part first. So first of all, core muscle engage, the moment of contact. Enter, lower hips. Then after that, move the feet. Then you will proceed after that. But for the moment, let's just do that part. Core muscle engage, moment of contact. Enter, lower hips. Turn. Heels. So for muscles, hips, legs. For muscle, hips, legs. Core muscle, hips, legs. Muscle, hips, legs. Oh. Okay, so the next one is Kokyu Ho. And again, so what it was a Kokyu Ho, for example, is it's similar. It's just that by presentation, the hands have to be up. So in a way, you could say, well, I'm moving my arms first. But that's not the important part. The important part in Kokyu Ho is that once the arms are moved, then if we are not careful, then we try to do everything with the arms. Then I get to my partner up here, and then I try to push them with one arm, and I try to pull them with the other arm, and blah, 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 blah. So the arms are trying to do things not only by themselves, in terms of separated from the body, but also independently from each other. You know, many times we see one arm coming down, the other one going up, one arm down, one other opening. Like they're just crazy. They're just doing completely whatever they want, in a sense. So your arms begin raising because you never starts down here, but the process is similar eventually. You raise arms, engage core muscle at the moment of contact, moving of your spine, moving of your hips, arms following. Raising, core muscles engage at the moment of contact, moving your spine, moving your hips, arms following. Raise, engage, core muscles so you are stable. Okay, move your spine, move your hips, arms follow. Raise, engage, spine, hips, arms follow. Core, spine, hips, follow. It's very important to the arms have this quality in Kokyu Ho where they are not neither completely stiff, neither completely floppy. And part of that quality of natural and correct tension probably is fed by a correct core muscle engagement because then you don't have to rely on your shoulders to produce the tension, which normally equalize to stiff tension. And then when you try to release the shoulders in order to release the tension, then you end up floppy because either you have the tension of the shoulders, which is stiff, you release the shoulders and then you flop. Okay. So, but if the core muscles are somehow providing the stability to the body, okay, there is more natural, correct tension on the abs. Okay. But the idea will be the same thing. Core muscles, spine, very important. Okay. Hips. So, pay attention in your practice. If you can, slow it down a little bit, to make sure that the horses are pulling the cart and not the other way around. And then one day, with enough repetitions and enough practice, it will look like all these things come together at the same time, but they don't come together at the same time. There is an order, there is a hierarchy of importance in the movement. And progressively, our body, our mind gets used to that hierarchy. Okay? Right. Right. Hey.
どうもありがとうございました。